Hello, everyone.
That's
It is Sunday night, and we are going to live from inside of Bat City Comic Professionals in Bradenton, Florida, to help you wind down your weekend. As always, I'm your host, Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, here to tell you about the latest and greatest in indie and small press new releases. But of course, before we can wind down our weekend with comics, we've got to check out what wine we're drinking. And I honestly don't know, because I didn't even take 2 seconds to read the name of the wine. So let me see what we're drinking. We are drinking Lazy Bones, which is a California Cab Franc. This is going to be, I'm like, does it say anything about it? It's spiced blackberries, ripe cherries, sweet wood, and fresh herbs is the palette that it's giving us. I'm going to see what we think. Well, it smells like the sweet wood flavor that it describes, and also like the old wood of my wine glass cabinet, which is a nice blend. Oh, that's nice.
It's very nice.
Yeah, that's a good wine. I'm trying to think if yes, spiced blackberry and cherry. Like, I definitely feel a blend of cherry and blackberry in there.
Yeah. It's also Paso Robles, which we really like. Most of the wines out of Paso Robles.
It's true. For California, that is like the California region that we seem to like a lot. And making a Cab Franc with California wine, like, from Paso Robles, like this. It tastes nice.
This is a Christmas present.
I was like, is it? Who gave it to us? I need to tell the world that. But no.
Us. From Trader Joe's.
From Trader Joe's. Oh, that makes sense why it's out of California, too, because I know they have a lot of California wines. I love this saying on the back is like, the best part of wasting the whole day is that it's wholly yours to waste. And then it says, I don't care if you call me lazy bones. I love to lounge away the day alone. Why mix with others when being myself is so beautiful? When the day is at my pace, I can relish small pleasures like ripe cherries, spiced blackberries, the aroma of sweet wood and fresh herbs. After all, there's no shame in putting off for today what can truly wait for tomorrow. That's so nice. What a nice little reminding yourself to take a break with a delicious wine.
It's like a Winnie the Pooh quote.
It is kind of like Winnie the Pooh quote, especially because it is about not doing something, which is totally Winnie the Pooh's whole jam. He would love jam. But yeah, it's a really pretty bottle too. It kind of matches some of the aesthetic of some of the comics this week. So what a great pairing this is going to be. I feel like this is not one of those weeks where I'm lazy bones though, because we had, like, look at the stack for this week. This is like a 60 book week or something like that, so it's not.
Don't even get them all in the frame.
Right? I'm like, I don't even, like, I'm like half off the thing. Can you see it all there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a big week. So I was like, ooh, not a lazy bones today. But we're going to talk about all of those in just a minute. But I have to, of course, talk about all the great things that happened at Bat City this week. We had a great time. We had creator meetup, which was always fun, thanks to all of the people who came and took the time to talk about their work and to talk with other people about their work. We had a lot of fun drawing and talking about just different things in the industry. It was a very chill meetup this month, and so it was a lot of fun to just kind of get to relax with our creator friends. And then Saturday we had comic creation workshops, and we got to help some kids make some fun books and get them started on some new stories. And then, of course, last night was our Old Manatee Candlelight Stroll, which was so much fun. Just a thank you to all the businesses that participated. It was so much. We had so many great things. And just a lot of fun. We had Santa Claus here. We got to watch movies. It snowed, and definitely completely 100% real snow. And we had just a fun time walking around to all of our neighborhood friends. Thank you so much to all of the other businesses that participated. Thanks to everybody who came out. Thanks to all of our volunteers who showed up and helped make Christmas magical. And you know, we still have a couple more days before Christmas here at Bat City. Of course, we are closed every Monday and Tuesday, But don't dismay. If you are like, oh my gosh, you're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays and I need that perfect Christmas gift, don't worry, we are open Christmas Eve. So if you still need to do last minute shopping, we are going to be open. Not only are we going to be open regular hours on Christmas Eve, but we will actually be open until 9 p.m. Christmas Eve. And from 6 to 9 p.m. we are going to be doing a community potluck. Anybody who wants to come that doesn't have somewhere to go for the holiday and wants to just come and hang out, come chill with us, bring your favorite dish, bring your favorite drink, bring your favorite dessert, bring a bag of chips. It doesn't matter, just bring yourself and come hang out. It's going to be a lovely time, and we'll be posting information about that as well as our hours tomorrow. We will be closed on Christmas Day, but then we will reopen on Friday. There are new books this week. There are actually a lot of good new books coming up this week, so don't forget that Wednesday is a new comic book day, and there will be new books on Wednesday. And the same with New Year's Eve is a huge week. Ultimate Endgame launches on New Year's Eve, so we'll be open that day as well. No more outside of the community potluck on Christmas Eve. There's no more events for the rest of the year, but that January calendar will be launching this week, so you can start planning your January event schedule with us. Other than that, we're going to talk about comics, because I just told you there's a lot of them. So I'm going to take another drink because this wine's delicious, and quite frankly, that's really the only reason why. Man, so good. It's really good. It's opening up too, already, which is awesome. That it's that's a fast aeration. Which you said Cab Francs don't need decantering or anything, right? So that's probably why it's opening so quickly, because it doesn't need just a little bit of oxygen, helps it pop. But yeah, it's so good. And speaking of so good, this week is so good for comics, so I'm sorry if I spend way too much time as if everything's a pick of the week, but I literally spent 20 minutes just trying to get picks of the week because I love them all. So we're going to kick it off with Sam and Twitch, issue 20 from Image Comics and your Spawn universe. This is one of those where you don't have to know anything about Spawn to actually read this. This is actually just a really good detective story that takes place in that world. And if you've been following along, each arc of Sam and Twitch is kind of a different case that they're studying. And we learned early on that a long time ago there was a case that they did not solve, and Sam and Twitch are kind of revisiting that right now. There's something that happened in the previous issue that reminded Sam of that case, and that kind of led them back to cracking a case that almost ended Sam's life. And so now him and Twitch are trying to reopen that, and it's leading him into some dark magical spots. I think if we were ever going to see Spawn appear in Sam and Twitch, this would be the arc that we would see it. But this is just, it's such an interesting story because they are actually, as they unfold pieces of this case, there is this sense of, is there actually anything there, and is all something that they're just imagining? Is Sam kind of losing it because of the ties to the past that he has? And also, who is actually really involved in this case? Because it seems like there's some cover-up coming from higher ups in the police and the government, and it's gonna lead to some big problems. Normally I don't put it right in the middle of the thing, but we've got the last issue of Zdarsky Comic News. This is issue 18. This is the end of ZCN. Chip is signing off and backing out towards so that they can make the new Comics the magazine, which I'm really excited to see what happens with that. If you haven't been getting Zdarsky Comic News, it is free at our shop, and we have a bunch of copies from the different ones, but this is Chip's last issue, so he decided he's just going to make it all about himself. So this is a great infographic of all of Chip's books and everything he worked on. My favorite thing in here is actually Chip did, if I can find it, it's not that long, I should be able to find it. Oh, there it is. He did hot takes, and it's Chip's thoughts on things in the comic industry that he said would probably get him fired from any publisher that ever actually read what his hot takes were, but I definitely think they're absolutely hilarious. This is just a satirical little magazine that Chip's been putting out for free, or low cost buy-in for stores. He actually stores some or sell it for $1, but most people try to keep it pretty affordable. But because of that, there was no comic magazine, there was no place to get something, and so now Prana, which has picked up Zdarsky Comic News over the last couple issues, has now actually decided to launch a full comics magazine, and we're going to see that coming to reality in March of 2026. So that is something that will cost, I believe it's $2.99. If you want that at your local comic shop, make sure you subscribe to it so they know to order it for you. All right, one of my favorite books of the last 2 years is out. It is The Sacrificers. This is issue 18 from Image Comics and the Giant Generator imprint, which is Rick Remender's imprint. This is Rick Remender himself on this book, and it is absolutely phenomenal. If you have not read it, Sacrificers is the story of a world where the gods basically cause every family to give up one child every generation so that they can, to use it to reap their souls, essentially, and that is how the gods maintain their immortality. Well, over the course of this series, one of those sacrifices has decided that he is, he's not going to be a sacrifice, and he gets the power of the gods, essentially the ones who, you know, don't like what's happening, as to become their champion to take down the gods at large. Meanwhile, the daughter of the sun and the moon also realizes that everything her parents have been doing has been terrible, and she decides she also wants to take down the gods. And Rick Remender showed us what that looked like in the last issue, and now this is 30 years in the future, and what does it look like after those sacrifices are no longer required? And when you don't have that, and when you don't have a pantheon of gods who kind of control the crops and the moons and the, you know, weather in general and all those things, like what happens? And when the people see the world actually is up to them, can they handle that power of having to actually, you know, take care of the world themselves? And we know, like, humanity is not good at that. And so this is an interesting thing to see, like, the one remaining group of gods just struggling to keep humanity happy. We've got World Tree issue 17 from Image Comics. This is, if you haven't read World Tree yet, is basically a place where we've discovered that there's essentially a dark internet kind of situation called the Undernet. And these teenagers discover that, and they kind of build something to block that from humanity called the World Tree. And it's this site that just keeps everybody safe from that. But when it is exposed to the world, people start murdering and doing bad things to people. And so now the world is in this tragic, destroyed kind of state, and we've been in the future and kind of seeing what that would look like for a really long time. Now it's brought us back to 2024 again, where the story, you know, like the main part of the story kind of takes place, and we're seeing those people working to stop the destruction of what could come, as, you know, they took the internet offline, and we've got some FBI agents who are trying to find all of these people who are the only ones who can stop the Undernet from taking over the world. But there's not a lot of hope in this book, and a lot of, as these people have to learn to work together and just try to take down the world as it is. And it's such a mess because everything does revolve around the internet, and it's nice to go, we focus so much on our villain who kind of pushes that internet for so long that it's nice to go back and see a little bit of what the people who were trying to stop it were up to. We've got G.I. Joe issue 16 from Image, Skybound, and Your Inner John universe. This has been a part of the Dreadnought War little mini saga that's happening, which is basically Duke from the Joes has gone out on a mission to figure out where this Inner John like resource is, and at the same time Cobra Commander is also searching for that same Inner John source, and both of them end up getting captured by the Dreadnoughts, who are essentially living like the desert is the Mad Max world. And they take them captive, and they are determined to take out Cobra Commander, partially because they are working in conjunction with Destro, who really wants to get rid of Cobra Commander and take over. Meanwhile, at the same time, he is trying to negotiate becoming the arms dealer for the government on Inner John, and nobody kind of trusts him to understand what's going on. They know that Cobra Commander is the commander for a reason. Duke won't leave Cobra Commander behind, even though things are getting dicey. And in this issue, the Joes show up to try to save Duke, only for him to explain that he is not leaving a man behind, even if that man is Cobra. We've got Power Fantasy from issue 14 from Image Comics. This is the easiest way to explain Power Fantasy is what if we actually talked about the ethics of the X-Men in the real world. And once you put it in those terms, you can really see just exactly how that's working. But Kieran Gillen is building a story much similar to things he did like in Wicked and Divine, where he's taken a concept that we're familiar with and kind of just really pushing it to the very limits. And so this has people who are super powered, who are being controlled by a man whose power is to be able to read minds and also to control them. And they learn that over the years, he's decided that he's the one who gets to make the ethical call on what's right for these supers to do in regards to humanity. And we learn that he's done things like block people from their powers and keep people from actually being born, and killed people that he thought were too dangerous, and just manipulated people to believe that they were in love with somebody so that that person wouldn't attack the world because of an emotional crisis. And now these supers have gotten tired of it, and they have taken him out, or at least they believe they have. And it's like, without somebody to control their decisions and the ethics behind everything they do, what happens, and where does the world go, and who's actually in charge, and how bad can things get for each and every one of them as they realize they maybe didn't even know themselves this is going on. The fallout of issue, I think it was 10 or 11, where they actually like went after this man, has really been an interesting conversation. And if you haven't read Power Fantasy yet, there's a trade paperback for Arc 1 and Arc 2, and you should definitely get those and jump in, because it is such a good story. It's going to be one of those that we're talking about for years to come, like, oh my god, but did you read Power Fantasy? So you're going to want to jump in now. Dick Tracy, issue 14 from Mad Cave. In this arc, we are seeing Dick Tracy go against the Summer Sisters, except Dick Tracy is actually not, in fact, doing that. Dick Tracy, a couple of issues ago, went over to Europe because he's trying to figure out why a friend of his showed up and seems to be working with the bad guys in a way that he never thought he would, because of their relationship during the war. And now Dick Tracy and Tess Schuhart are on the other side of the pond, trying to figure out what exactly is going on and what the connection to the Summer Sisters are to the gangs of the city. Meanwhile, Pat is in the hospital after being attacked, and so it is up to Sam Ketchum to actually do the work of the police detective and try to go after the Summer Sisters and figure out who they're connected to, what's going on, and how to stop them from robbing the next big score that they're going after. So you get a little bit of everybody in the Dick Tracy universe coming in through here, on the good guy side a little bit for a minute, which is kind of fun. We've got Exquisite Corpses, issue 8 from Image Comics and the Tiny Onion Collective. If you have not read this yet, this is your Battle Royale Hunger Games kind of situation going on, where we learned that there are 13 people who 13 really rich families who essentially have run America over the course of history, and the way they determine who is going to actually run the country for each 4-year period at a time is they have what essentially is like a battle royale, where they each choose a champion, drop them into a small town that nobody would miss if it disappeared, and then they send those champions into battle against each other, and whoever's champion makes it out alive, that is the person whose family gets to run the country. We have seen a lot of crazy characters pop up in this town, and a lot of crazy side quests, because there's all these like internal bets between the families on who can kill, like whose champion's going to kill the most people, who's going to have like the biggest, the biggest score, what's going to cause the most difference. But the thing is that we're also getting to see the story of the people in the town, and we've been following along as, a couple is trying to enjoy Halloween night with the kid that they're babysitting. A woman is trying to just do her job because she's a single mom and she needs help with that. And a nurse who is the niece of the sheriff is trying to keep everybody in the town safe and deal with everything as it comes to her. And so all these stories are overlapping at the same time as these battles are happening. And in this issue, we actually kind of get to see a little bit of all of that, get some more exposition and some more connecting pieces. Like lines are drawn that tie everything a little bit more together and show us like exactly what we're working towards. As we get less and less people in this battle, what is going to be the ultimate thing that we're going towards? We start to see that formulate in this issue. Definitely a big turning point. And probably the end of that arc, because they did 4 issues for the first trade paperback. Let's probably do another the next 4 in that one. We've got Mark Spears Monsters issue 8 from Keenspot. If you didn't know and you missed it, because if you didn't know, but Mark Spears Monsters issue 8 was a blind bag that you had to know. There was no open order covers.
Which is why you have a cover without trade dress.
Which is why I have a cover without trade dress. This is all covers were blind bagged, so there was not a single like traditional cover A or anything that you could order. And there was 78, I believe it was, different cover options. It was insane. 82 different cover options. And it's a really cool way to do it and get people excited about the book. And if you aren't reading the book, you should be excited about it just because it's awesome. This is a Universal Monsters kind of story. That kind of has a battle coming to head between different factions of the Universal Monster world. And we learned we've always thought that Dracula was kind of building towards something. We know there's a Slayer. We know the Wolfman's working with him. We know there's another group of people who are trying to find something else. And the whole thing is they need to awaken this like ancient witch. And whoever awakens this witch first is going to be the one that really has the power in this battle. And we learn some really big spoiler things in this issue that I'm not going to tell you. But we also learn about an entirely new character. And let me say, I was really excited. It was such a cool way to bring this character into a monster world because they're from a different literary world and something that is not necessarily considered horror. And so it was really cool how Mark kind of blended the story of this character into something that could be seen as more of a horror franchise kind of character, and then also have a little bit of that magical tie to the witch at large that's coming our way. What a really cool twist and turn we did in this issue. And if you're not reading it yet, I hope that there's collections of this at some point, because I really think that people would want to check, like that aren't getting to check it out yet, would love this book because there's a lot of fun monsters in it. And if you think the covers are cool, there's tons more of that imagery inside because Mark is doing all the covers, the story, and the interiors himself, so the book always reflects what you see on the outside. We've got The Future Is issue 8 from Rekka. This is such a cool, fun way to tell a story about like the hacker kind of world. Like this is giving us that modern hacker story, and it follows a man named Wheeler who used to be this like terribly like awful person who was a hacker and who kind of did a bunch of cyber crimes and things, and now he's decided to turn another leaf and become the good guy. And so he's been building a team of people who can help him solve crimes that are all in the cyber sphere themselves. And in the last issue, they kind of took out what seemed like the ultimate bad guy, and so we're seeing them build up new competition and new crimes and new people to stop, because there's always going to be something that you can stop. And this issue, they end up going to help out at a facility where a doctor is trying to work with children, and they have a security guard that's in a mech suit, and one night the mech suit kind of goes wild and tries to kill the children, and the children are able to communicate essentially telepathically. And the group is brought in because they know that there's science and stuff around this, and so they're trying to figure out what the science of that communication link is, and also how to stop the dangers of these mech suits going wrong. And this just opens them up to what I love that they call in the header for this, like, is that it's the first time this group has ever had to play defense. Like, as they've built their team, they've always been on the offense going after a bad guy, but what happens when bad guys are coming after them for the first time and they're not prepared for that? And we definitely see some big crazy things happen in this that leave you wondering if they're actually ready to do the challenges that they face. We've got Space Ghost issue 6 from Dynamite Comics. This is always a fun adventure with David Pepos' Space Ghost. He's building just a great, like, feels like you're watching cartoons every time you read it. And Space Ghost and his two kid proteges have been traveling the world with their space monkey, and they have been taking on around the galaxy different challenges. And in this one, they actually end up facing off against space vampires. And they're very worried because this planet of people, like this group of people who are all vampires, they have a Dracula kind of character that they're going against. And Space Ghost, in the very first couple of pages, actually gets bit by the vampire and is now under the control. And so it's up to the kids to actually figure out a way to save Space Ghost from the mind control and the thirst of being a vampire in order to stop all of them from attacking other planets. And so they go on this big adventure where they have to actually fight and kind of reawaken Space Ghost from that and figure out a way to stop this evil vampire, Dracula, Nosferatu kind of guy. And it's just a fun Space Ghost kind of story. So if you are just looking for something fun, and I love that the kids are always the heroes, like in that story, because you know what, Space Ghost is cool, but it's nice that these guys actually sit down and do their research and come up with some fun ways to save the day. We've got Ghost Pepper issue 6 from Image and the Skybound imprints. This is another really fun story. If you are a fan of Eastern comics, manga, things like that, you would actually really enjoy this because it has a very manga-esque feel in that Western style, similar to a lot of things that like Boombox puts out. But this is all about a girl who, she owns a food truck, essentially, and she has the secret that she has ghost peppers in a world where everything's kind of flavorless, and there's not much, anything that people can acquire. And so she always has huge success wherever she goes. In the very first issue, she meets a stranger who doesn't know who he is or why he's there. We find out he is, of course, this like epic fighter who once saved the day when the world faced ultimate destruction, except the world all thinks that their ruling leader is the person who saved them from that. And now the leader has found out that this guy is back, and he is determined to get his hands on him and make sure that nothing can challenge, or no one can challenge the fact that he should be the leader. And in this issue, we're actually facing off against some even bigger foes, and we don't have our Ash, our new guy, to come in and save the day, and so she's actually having to fight some of these bad guys on her own for a minute, and we get to see the resourcefulness of this town and the people as Ash kind of figures out what his direction is going to be. Very fun story, and always full of really cool twists and turns. We've got Catacomb of Torment, issue 6 from Oni Press in their EC horror line. This is an anthology series that's going to feature lots of fun little horror stories of different kinds. And the first one being a news story from our good friend Matt Bors. That's all about a woman who is mugged on the street by a guy, and she goes to do one of those, profile pages with police force to try to figure out like what the man looks like so they can put up wanted posters. And then later she's attacked by somebody else, and it's a completely different thing, and she just keeps coming in and saying she's attacked by these different people, and the police don't really believe her because it's like, why would the same person keep getting attacked? And she starts to study the face structure and the way to describe people, and try to figure out that there is something more going on to it. And as we see what exactly that is, we get some nice twists and turns. Definitely builds a really tense story as we follow along with her journey through this. And then the next story is called Making the Cut, and it's all about a university where the dean of the university decides that they need to get rid of the DEI initiatives, and so they need to cut a bunch of students from the school, and they put one professor in charge of getting rid of everybody, and he has to kind of ruthlessly determine rules to get rid of everybody, and he hates it, and he hates what it's doing to the students and their opportunities in this world. And we get to see how that would play out as people respond to it. And then we have one called The Filmmaker's Dilemma, all about a guy who wants to be a documentarian, and he feels like the best way to do that is to kind of take his camera in and look at the world in a different way and find somebody to follow around. And after months and months of following this cashier from a grocery store, he sees that there is actually something mysterious and nefarious going on with this guy, and he can't let go of the story and kind of becomes very like rear window obsessed with what's happening just beyond the camera lens and the story he's going to tell. Great. These aren't really, none of these are really scary. It's more of that like suspense, really, like what's going to happen and what are the decisions and like what are the bad choices like people make kind of thing. So it's really cool how well these all go together in this particular issue. We've got VR Troopers issue 5 from Boom Studios. If you are a fan of the VR Troopers show or Power Rangers, this is definitely a book that you need to check out. In this series, we've been following along as the VR Troopers are dealing with some big things. One of our troopers has found that somebody else is accessing a suit, only to find out that it is a mysterious connection to his family, a family that he thought he was long gone and he would never see again, and he is facing some interesting questions about his family and the place that they've been and the destruction that they've seen. Meanwhile, one of our troopers was trying to do some research on the bad guys, got trapped in their facility, and so the only way to get her out is to actually have a team up, of course, with this family member who has come back from wherever they are. I don't want to spoil it. And so they have to actually like band together to go for this fight. And the VR Troopers learn that there is more to this organization and these people that they're fighting against than they ever thought possible, with the very first fights just getting really, really hard. And can they trust the people they're fighting against or the people they're fighting with is going to be the big case as the troopers try to not only save their friend, but in the end save themselves from the dangers of aligning them. We've got Monster High World Scare issue 5 from IDW. This is the end of the World Scare story arc, and it has been so good, and I just can't wait for whatever the next Monster High story is. Just keep putting them out, IDW. We'll keep buying them and reading them and loving them. Y'all keep making them. But in this story, we've seen there is something called a crypt crier, which is essentially Gossip Girl for the Monster High world, who keeps reporting inaccurately on all of the things, which is kind of causing a lot of drama and confusion for people during what is the World Scare, which the Monster High School is helping put on. Meanwhile, Frankie has been trying so hard to come up with an experiment because in the last Monster High story, her father passed away, and she feels like the best way to honor Frankenstein is to become a great inventor herself, but she just feels like she can't quite get it, and so she's finally figured out a way to create her invention, which we learn in this issue is that she's trying to figure out how to take emotions away from people so that you never have to feel sadness or fear or stress or anything. And by doing so, she almost accidentally ends all monster kind by accidentally like being willing to give up her invention because she has no feelings to be able to dictate what she should do. We learn who Crypt Crier is. We learn how the girls need to learn to work together, and we learn the importance of our feelings in ways to make choices in the world and how important it is to actually experience things. It's so good. I love it so much. I want to get the dolls and reenact the story, and that's just an excuse to buy the new dolls. I'm not going to lie. We've got Gargoyles Demona issue 5 from Dynamite and their Disney Comics imprint. And I think this could be the end of our Demona story for the time being. It kind of does lead us into where we've been in the past. But this has kind of been the story of Demona, the immortal gargoyle, and how she doesn't age, and, you know, all of the adventures she went on that made her really, really hard against humans. That kind of leads to the story of Demona in the cartoon. But this has really followed her with Angelica, who is essentially her gargoyle daughter, and the story that she has and with her. And in this issue, Angelica is old, and she is actually coming to the end where she is going to join the winds and pass on. And she's now got her own granddaughter and daughter, and Demona comes to see her, and she realizes that this may be the end for Angelica, and Angelica's writing a story, and she's telling the story of her and her travels with her mother, and it's this beautiful moment where Demona's like, oh my gosh, like, and realizes, like, oh, I am somebody's mom, and I am something to somebody, and I do have this family. And then Demona has that tragic moment that once again reminds her that she doesn't trust humans, and even though they constantly fight beside her, she just can't see past her hate for them. And you see that, and since it is just a like well-written, beautiful story, I don't want to ruin any of it for you, so just read it. You could even read this one. You don't even have to read the rest of them. If you just want to know, like, why is Demona so hateful to humans on the cartoon, you could just read this issue, and you'd have a good idea of where she gets that from. I'm going to take a wine break because we're like a third of the way through, and I want to know what this wine tastes like now. Again, we're drinking Lazy Bones, which is a California Cab Franc. Oh my gosh. That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
Now, Matt, you studied this for a minute. So California Cab Franc means that they took the French grapes and grew them in California?
Yeah, so you can buy the vines of any kind of grape, right? And then you take those vines and grow them wherever you are. We could, because our soil here in Florida is actually has the right hardness level, which it really bases on the hardness level as to where the grapes can grow. We could grow Cab Franc here. We could just order Cab Franc vines, and then you transplant them here, and then you would grow it here, and then we would have a Florida Cab Franc.
That's cool. Yeah.
But since the grapes have been bred in the same way that grapes, or like the same way oranges or avocados can be bred, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
You transport it and you grow it there.
So you don't have to like mix it with like a California wine. It's just straight like French Cab Franc grapes grown in California.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. In the same way that Tempranillo grapes can be grown in Toro or Rioja, and you have a Toro Tempranillo or a Rioja Tempranillo.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
It's delicious. That's what all that to say. It's delicious, and you should try it.
Absolutely. And for $10, I think.
Right.
This
Lazy Bones. Yeah. I mean, if it's Trader Joe's, it's probably under $10.
It's right around.
Yeah.
Because it's Cab Franc, so it's not the cheapest of the cheap, but it's not expensive. It might be $12.99.
It might be $12.99. I've seen some of their Cab Francs get $12.99.
Yeah. Really good, though.
Yeah.
Really good. And they do their Cab Sav versus Cab Franc. This is superior.
Yeah, this is definitely superior to that. Yeah. All right, well, we're going to keep going because we got a lot of number 4s this week. This was a big week for the 4th issue. And we've got Rebel Moon, what is this? Nemesis, issue 4. And this is from Titan Comics. And this is based in the world of Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon movie. But this is Gail Simone writing a new story in that world. And it is so good. I mean, not surprising that Gail Simone would knock it out of the park. But she told such a fantastic story. It's all about a girl who her village is destroyed by the ruling party, like the governing body sends their soldiers in and they destroy her entire village, her family, her husband, her kids, her dad, her mom, like everybody is just destroyed. And she figures out all of the officers and all of the soldiers that were a part of that attack, and she's like, I'm gonna take all of them down. And so she goes on this Ronin mission over the last 4 issues to just get her revenge. And in this issue, she comes to the last 4 people and she's determined to take them all out. And while she's in the process of doing that, she actually runs into somebody from her past that she didn't think was still alive, and she has this moment with them where she's like, has to decide whether she wants to fight with them or die. And it's such a good story. And we also see the woman who was the soldier who was kind of in charge of everything also has just been, over the course of this, we've seen her just get beat down by the ruling party over and over again, and she keeps trying to be exactly what they want her to be, and it's never enough. And we see her have to come to terms with like where she wants to be and on what side of the fence she wants to be on and how she wants to get to that spot, like in this issue. And seriously, the ending of this is so good. Gail really nailed it with this and gave you a great story. So if you didn't see Rebel Moon, it doesn't matter. I haven't seen it. I actually still don't even know what it's about, unless you told me it was about this story. Like, I have not seen it. But this series, this 4-part series, was really good. It's so good that I'm like, do I need to watch this movie now? And if this character's in it, I would. It would be amazing. We've got Adventures of Lumen in issue 4 from Dark Horse. This is a really cool new story, kind of featuring the character of Captain Nemo in a whole new way. It's about a young girl named Lumen who doesn't really know her family birthright. She's been raised in this facility that's been training her and keeping her safe from the outside world. She's kind of studied all these different things, and she just has this really adventurous spirit. And one day she believes that her grandfather is dead and that her dad is still alive. But one day her grandfather shows up and rescues her from an attack on the facility. And she learns it's actually the opposite, and that her grandfather is still alive. And he is the famous Captain Nemo. And he is going to take her on an adventure because she is in danger. And he would rather keep her with him. And to find out that somebody has killed her father. And now they must essentially avenge him and stop the dangerous person from attacking the world and destroying it. And in this issue, or in the last issue, there was an attack on France, Paris specifically, and they had to take the Nautilus there and try to figure out a way to stop it. And upon arrival, Nemo was arrested, and so it's up to Lumen in this issue to solve everything and kind of figure it out and figure out a way to really bring that battle home and just build up whatever it is that she's gonna do to like save everybody before it's too late. That is the wrap up of this, at least this story for Lumen, and so it's definitely open to where we could go on more adventures, and I hope we do. We've got Racer X number 4 from Mad Cave. Mark Russell is telling a fantastic story with this character, and I was talking to somebody recently who was like, I was a big Speed Racer fan, and I was like, is this the story that you thought that like you would get with Racer X if somebody ever told it? And they were like, no, this is way more than I would have ever imagined, and it's so cool. And it really is, and this is just another great issue. This is running in companion to the Speed Racer series that is coming out right now, also from Mad Cave. And in this version of the story, Racer X is actually the assumed dead brother of Speed Racer. That was the reason that Speed wasn't supposed to go into racing. And we get these really heartfelt stories every issue about essentially how Racer X had built up his role and who he wanted to be and how he wanted to race, and kind of the lessons his dad taught him that was like, hey, don't do that and don't go into racing. And yet he did it anyway, and you know, allegedly died, and he's had to kind of wear this hidden mask the whole time. And this issue talks a lot about that. He talks about the mask that he put on before he died to become the racer he wanted to be, and the mask that he still wears to this day. Meanwhile, we do see the exact same race that we're seeing in the Speed Racer book, which currently has Speed driving through a very dangerous course without brakes, and the only person on the course that's able to help him is actually Racer X. And in this, we do see that Racer X's car is kind of destroyed and can't take any more hits, and so Speed and him learn to balance it together and what that would look like. And there's just so many incredible heartfelt moments, and then to add on top of that those heartfelt moments are done completely in secret because Speed and his dad still have no idea who Racer X is, and so he's having these beautiful moments like all on his own. And he's just like there's like a line in here where he's like, I can't ever like really expose who I am, but I kind of just needed a father. And it's like, you just feel like so bad for him, and it's just so beautiful. And Mark Russell is pulling on all of your heartstrings at the same time. You laugh, you cry, you cheer, you cry some more. It's so well done. Even if you don't know the Speed Racer world, this is just a really cool story that you can jump into. And like Speed's almost like the action side to like Racer X is like heartfelt, like emotional story right now. So good. You don't have to read both, but it works really well if you do. Good as Dead issue 4 from Image Comics. Every issue of Good as Dead makes the world worse for these characters in so many ways. I feel so bad for this sheriff on every single page. But this story involves essentially a small town sheriff who is dealing with a lot. There is supposed to be the first time in like 100 years that they opened up a new bridge in this town. One family has kind of run the transport in and out of the town, and on the day that the new bridge was supposed to open up, the bridge was blown up, and now all these people have died, and the sheriff is trying to figure out who's behind that. Meanwhile, as if that could be possibly the worst thing that could happen, there's also this massive virus that has broken out, and people are dying left and right and getting extremely sick, and including the sheriff. And so he's like on his deathbed, barely able to hold on. The deputy is like secretly working with lots of people. You're gonna have to read to figure out who all of them are. The sheriff is 100% convinced that the long-running like crime family of the town is behind all of this, and so now his family is in danger because he's going after those people. Meanwhile, like the son of the leader of that crime family is like, I don't know why I'm getting blamed for all of this, and I'm like not prepared for anything. everybody is in a terrible situation. Absolutely everybody is in a terrible situation in this. And I don't know how any of them are going to get out of it. So this book just keeps digging the hole deeper and deeper. And hopefully we see somebody throw a rope ladder down before we're all buried at the bottom. But it's so well done in the process. So if you seriously just want to see like a crime book where things just get worse before they maybe someday get better, this book is doing that so well. We've got the wrap up of Artificial from Image Comics and Maria Lovett. This is such a wild story. This is all about a woman who has a really like great job. Actually, I love it. She gets to, you know, work as a stylist and kind of build up all of these like people, but she doesn't have the ability to build up herself, and she really just wants to find like this romantic, beautiful love. And so she ends up buying an AI boyfriend who is like this android being that you kind of program to be whatever it is that you want them to be. And in the process of doing that, she really messed up because she didn't get her safe word right. She over-programmed him with a romance novel and hyper accelerated that. And now this AI has gone insane, and he thinks he's living in this romance novel. And now that she's actually found a human that she could be happy with, we have the most vicious love triangle that you could possibly have, and she has no idea how to get this relationship back on track or save her very life before it ends. And this is the end of this, so I'm not going to show you much more, which is funny because this is one of the few times where I could actually show you a lot of a Maria Lovett book, but because it's the last issue, I don't want to ruin it for you because it's really action-packed. But I do think that my favorite part and this whole thing is she's like, I'm trying to figure out how to like solve this. And she goes like, she keeps calling and they're like, you have to go in person. And she goes in person and they're like, we're closed. And she's like, oh my God, what is customer service? And I'm like, I love that commentary, Maria Lovett, because that is so the way it works when you're trying to like deal with an issue. It's like nothing works and you're like, I'm just stuck with this problem. So good. What a great thriller that one was. We've got Fortress issue 4 from Strangers and Rome Comics. This is the first new issue of Fortress. If you have been following this story, it originally came out a few years back. They put out 3 issues and then they didn't have the means to continue, and so they just relaunched the series and released those first 3 issues again, and now we are continuing the story for the first time. This is basically a post-apocalyptic world. And there was a massive war that kind of really destroyed everything. And there's this one kid named Caleb who really had the power to change the course of the world and war. And he has these weaponized arms, and he's lost them in the battle. And now a woman has found him, and she believes that she can help repair him and bring him back to save the world, and to stop all of the like evil villains that are in charge. And as she's trying to rebuild him, we're seeing a lot of different things. We see the bad guys kind of figure out that he's still out there, and so they send some bounty hunters after him, and we see that situation kind of rising tension in this issue. We see the bad guys have captured one of Caleb's only friends and people that he's known to work with, and they're trying to get information out of him. And we see Caleb start to distrust all of the people that are working for him, because you can kind of see how everybody seems to have an alternative motive, and these like ulterior motives are not ever like as pure and true as Caleb kind of wants them to be. And so in this issue, we're really seeing a lot of rising tensions as everything's coming to a boiling point, and how is he going to handle that, and where's the next step of the puzzle? It's going to be wild to see. And I love how crazy the art is in that story. We've got the end of Black Diamond with issue 4 from Panic. Speaking of great thrillers, what a great thriller this one has been. This is all about a man who takes his son on a ski trip, only to have the son get kidnapped by a random person who may or may not be a member of a really dark cult. And the only thing he can do is he calls his ex-wife in and is like, hey, I lost her kid. Bad things are happening. She shows up, and she's the only one that's allowed to help him. And basically, the assignment from the cult is that if they want to get their son back, they have to replace him with another child. And so the last few issues, we've seen them trying to figure out like what child they're going to replace their kid with, and so they go on this kidnapping streak to kind of try to find a kid. And we saw that happen. We kind of saw the way the couple worked with it and the way it ate on them in different ways. And in this issue, we are at the end, and so we are seeing the attempt to get this kidnapped child to the cult in time to save their own kid, and what that looks like. And everything past that, giant spoilers. Not telling you anything. Just gonna tell you that, again, awesome thriller. Panic, this is such a great, like, this is, you know, Panic is on 3 books out right now. This is it's so good. It was such a great a story that always kept you like on the edge of your seat, like, what is going to happen next? Where is this going? Like, what is actually involved with this kidnapping and this cult, and what is going to happen? And you're never prepared for how far humans can take things. And Get Nervous is an epic tagline, and Panic definitely nailed it in this book. You're shaking your head, Matt. You love this book.
Yeah, absolutely. Really well done.
Really well done.
And really nice, soft covers.
Yeah, they're like fresh velvet. Yeah. It's like so soft.
It's very nice.
It's very nice. Great quality all the way around from Panic. Definitely a great launch. 2025 saw a lot of new publishers, and I'm not mad at it because they are all fantastic. Like, we've seen so many books coming, so many good books coming from so many new publishers this year, and I cannot wait to see what they all do in 2026. It's going to be so good. And speaking of another new publisher, The Dusk, issue 4 from AMP. Another new publisher that just nailed it with every book they put out this year, and kind of hit all of the genres. You know, they had their fantasy book, they had their romantic comedy. 10 points to AMP for bringing a romantic comedy, and they had a Western, and they have a superhero. And this superhero story has been so good. This is about a man who he's a lawyer who's kind of got that like daredevil mentality, that it's like, oh man, I wish that I could do more to actually help figure out like and stop these crimes from happening. And like, I wish I had the power to do stuff. And he actually does, because he is actually also known as the superhero The Dusk, and he realizes that there is a man who is causing all of the trouble in the town, who is like the ultimate like kingpin of this town, and he is trying to stop this guy and all of the crime that he's causing. And it actually leads him to, you know, his own client kind of leads him to that. But it's so good the way they do it. He's also a single dad, and he's trying to balance raising a teenage daughter. He himself was orphaned as a kid, and he actually finds out who his father is, and kind of inherits a Batman like life, and that's how he was able to build The Dusk, which is a cool story and a good way to do it. This is the last issue of at least this arc, and I really hope we get to see more of The Dusk. But the way that Alex Segura wraps it up in this issue is so good, because you do get to see so many different pieces of that puzzle kind of fall into place in a nice way that like rounded out the story so perfectly well. And again, AMP is just nailing it with hitting every genre in their first year. Everything Dead and Dying, issue 4 from Image Comics. This is again, I'm going to say it every time, this is the absolute best Tate Brumble book ever. It is so good. And I can't stop gushing about how well done it is. If you haven't started reading this yet, at this point, I am going to spoil the premise slightly for you. You're going to deal with it. We're 4 issues in. You've had 4 months to go jump on issue 1 before I spoiled any of it. But this is the story of a man who's lived in the same small town his whole life. And he kind of had a love-hate relationship with it, as you often do when you live in the same small town. But he's kind of built a network of friends, and he knows everybody, and everybody means something to him, which really mattered when the small secluded town suffered from the fact that a zombie apocalypse broke out. And now it's been years since this apocalypse started, and he is still living in his town as the sole human in the area, and the town is still living its day to day, and he's kind of putting that together and keeping everything going. And it's just this beautiful back and forth of balance between, like, for him, he sees all the people still as they were when they were humans, and all that emotional connection to them, which is key and crucial to the fact that a group of people have come in who are very Walking Dead-esque and are like, I'm gonna like, this town is full of, you know, the dead, we have to take them all out, and these people are trying to destroy it so that they can take over this town. So they're trying to clear it of all the dead so that they can have this safe, secluded spot, and he is the one thing standing between them and the death of everybody that's ever meant everything to him. And the way Tate Brothel is balancing the action and the zombie horror and the horror of losing your family and friends, and realizing that those people who were maybe bullies to you in high school actually do matter to you in a different way when you're an adult, and like how it's like, those are my bullies, I can take them out but you can't, like, kind of respect and love for the culture of your community. It's so good. We're going to be talking about this in Eisner season, 100%. No way that, like, if this does not have Eisner attention, I'm going to lose it. It's going to be insane, because this book is definitely what the Eisners should be looking at for next year. It's so good. Yeah, oh my god, I love that book so much. And it's Jacob Phillips on art, which is such a good balance for Tate's story. Oh, I love it. We've got TMNT, Casey Jones, issue 3 from IDW. If you didn't get to see the end of the last run on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which ended at 150 from Sophie Campbell, Casey Jones had ended up in the hospital. He had been severely injured and was in a coma through most of what we've seen of Ninja Turtles so far. At the end of one of the issues, he wakes up and then gets his own series immediately following. And in this series, Casey feels like he can't spend time just sitting at home waiting around doing nothing, even though April is constantly there to check on him and keep him safe and hang out with him. And so he goes out patrolling at night in secret, much to the anger of both April and Raphael, his two best friends. And he ends up finding a young girl whose dad has been kidnapped, and he is a young mutant girl. And so he's like, I'm going to figure out what's going on. I'm doing the investigation. And it turns out, like, a lot of the mutanimals have been kidnapped, and something strange is going on. And Casey is determined to figure out exactly what that is. Meanwhile, there's also, he runs into, in this issue, a snow leopard kind of creature who is very anthropomorphic, more so than most of, almost even more so in his mind than even the Ninja Turtles. And he seems to be indestructible for the most part, and it turns out that he has this special serum that's been given to him by somebody who's running a secret drug force, and that serum is keeping him almost invincible. And Casey is now trying to figure out what that connection is to the missing mutants and to the people in the city, and he's gonna have to rely on the Ninja Turtles a little bit more for help, and trust that they are going to actually let him do the work that he wants to do and work with him as well. She's really building out a lot of layers in that story. We've got Starship Godzilla issue 3 from IDW. We are seeing a lot of different Godzilla books coming out of this new Kaisei era, and a lot of it is building on the idea of, like, the idea that we can basically harness Godzilla energy. And in this story, we're actually following a group of people, very Guardians of the Galaxy-esque kind of thing, where this team of, like, ragtag misfits are all rounding up treasures and using them for bounties to make money. And they've recently docked at a different place where they are trying to sell these kaiju eggs that they have found. And they don't all agree that that's the thing they should do, especially the younger girl on the ship, who's kind of feels like there's something more to the story. And when everybody is told to remain on the ship because they are in a dangerous place, she does not listen. And she goes into the city, and she finds out that the city is misusing kaiju to kind of dig their holes and use them, as just like enslaved animals, essentially, to do all their bidding. And there is a group of people who are determined to save the kaiju, a revolutionary group, and she ends up kind of wrapped up with them. And it opens up her eyes to the fact that maybe she doesn't have to be a part of this group that uses kaiju in ways she doesn't agree with, and maybe she could join this revolution, but quick, dangerous, immediately afoot, kind of lead her back onto the ship looking for some other things. And we're going to see how those twists and turns kind of build on her character for the future. We've got the end of Yuletide with issue 3 from Oni Press. I think this is our only Christmas book that's actually wrapping up before Christmas. So congratulations, Yuletide. But this had such a great ending. This is a story all about a group of kids who live in a Christmas town, like actually literally a place called Christmas Town, and they are kind of over Christmas. One of them is actually like a kid who's Jewish, and he's like, I don't even celebrate Christmas, so I hate that the town forces it on us. Another kid, his father passed away on Christmas Eve, so he really hates Christmas, and his sister's kind of just like indifferent towards everything. And then there's the kids who are, you know, the kids of the mayor and everybody who are like forced into this faux relationship so they look like the king and queen of Christmas instead of prom. Anyway, they all end up in a big mess when one of the kids opens up an old chest and it releases a bunch of Christmas monsters. All of the classic monster side of the horror side of Christmas come out, and they are definitely trying to kill everybody in this town, specifically our young boy who has taken the knife, the blade of the witch, and is trying to to ruin Christmas, essentially, and trying to protect his family from this evil also that has come out. And so in this issue, they must go into this Christmas tree farm maze, essentially, that has been created by this witch, to try to return the dagger and also end her evil rule that has come over. But we also learn who she really is and what her story is and how Christmas truly came to be, and I love the way that they blend it all together and the way they tell this story. They really ended up tying it together nicely in the end. That just kind of gives us a great Christmas story, and I love the horror side of Christmas, so I'm glad that we got a story that was good for like all ages, that was a fun adventure that involved all of those characters. And what a great way to celebrate the solstice with this issue. Happy solstice, everybody, since that is today. We've got Terabytes, issue 3 from Mad K. This is an anthology series that is frame-tailed by a bunch of aliens essentially finding our planet from like a future excavation, and they are trying to learn more about it. And so each issue shows them kind of tap into some kind of computer or something where they can get information. And in this issue, Mark Russell, there's so many Mark Russell books this week. It's such a great week for comics. This week, they tap into a prison wall, which they don't know that it's a prison when they tap into it, but they find a story of a man who one day is going to his refrigerator to see where it has like his computer to tell him all about what's going on in the world, only to find out that he is being arrested for something. They can't tell him what because he's too poor to afford the rest of the information package, so he doesn't actually get to know what crime he committed. And when he gets to his prison cell, there's no like guards or anything at the prison. It's also run by the technology, and the only way to learn any of the information again, or to access a lawyer or any of those things, is to pay for it. But he doesn't have any credits because he doesn't have any money, and he can't access his money because he's in jail. So he has to learn how to raise money in prison through the different things. And then he hires a lawyer, and he's like, my lawyer isn't really good. And they're like, dude, you accidentally hired a bot. And he's like, that's all I could afford. And so he doesn't actually get like an actual lawyer, and it turns out like different things give you longer sentences essentially, and like everybody is basically just given more of a prison sentence at all time because they're too poor to afford their way out of it. And he tries to come up with a way that maybe they could all escape from the prison system, only to learn a little bit more about the prison. And it's such a Mark Russell commentary on how the poor are basically imprisoned by society and the expectations that we put on them, and how we will never actually really know what we did wrong that made us the poor, but we are all going to be considered the poor compared to the people in charge. It's so good, and this series, again, Terabytes, has just been awesome. I think the first issue was Mark Russell, the second one was Mark London. This one is Mark Russell, and then Mark London is doing the next one again. So they're just kind of going back and forth telling these crazy stories, and they've all been so good. We've got Supernatural issue 3 from Dynamite. If you are a fan of the Supernatural show, this is more adventures from the Winchester brothers, and I think it's supposed to be around like season 2 of the show, maybe. But this is kind of still giving us those one and done like adventures, which is why I think it's supposed to be like season 2. They're still kind of figuring out what happened to their mom and their dad as they go on these adventures. And in this one, they end up going through a small town and their car breaks down, which they find to be very strange because there was nothing wrong with their car just seconds before that. And while they're in the town, they find out they're looking for something to do, and somebody tells them that there's a book club. And what they find out is this book club is very mysterious, and it seems to be something going on. And as they follow the book club into the woods, they learn that one of the leaders of the book club actually killed the other leader of the book club, and they're forced to kind of deal with these repercussions that have come from this evil book club leader and what he's kind of tied to. And it's funny because they're like, there's nothing supernatural here, and then they're like, oh no, there is. And so they have to go kind of help these people and figure out what's going on. And you just get a real quick adventure for Sam and Dean on this one, while they're also kind of trying to figure out how does any of this connect to what they're actually doing, and kind of move them further towards their mission to stop all supernatural evils, but also figure out what happened to their parents. We've got High Strangeness, issue 3 from Oni Press and Spectrovision, which, if you don't know, Spectrovision is Elijah Wood's production company. And so this is, I always say, like, to people, I'm like, if you're looking for a book that's probably going to be an easy choice of, like, what on the shelf might be optioned, the one that's from Elijah Wood's production company, probably a good chance. And it's Elijah Wood and Daniel Noah's production company, and this particular issue is written by Christopher Cantwell, and it's all about and High Strangeness is an anthology of just like weird stuff happening, very like sci-fi horror kind of anthology. And in this story we see a woman who talks about how for her dad she was always a big, like, he always told her she could accomplish anything and she could do anything, and how he gave up his baseball career for her when she was born so that he could raise her to do those things. And what she ends up doing is creating a computer program in the 1980s. It's like I think it's 1983. It's one of 1983. And she creates this computer program that she believes is going to like fully change the world, like her and her best friend create it. And then one day she finds herself in accidents, and in that accident she feels like she was run off the road, and she realizes that maybe the people that were trying to buy the computer program that she created from her are actually trying to steal it. And she becomes very paranoid because she feels like she's being chased by these people and that they're coming for her. And we start to see like what the destruction of her life would look like, or does look like, as she's being followed by these people. And it becomes like, I lost my dad, I lost my program. Like, she just starts going and spiraling, and it just gets like darker and darker. And as she goes through this like rabbit hole of all these attacks from the people, and kind of loses each bit of it along the way. But it is this weird sci-fi horror thing, so you kind of get like a kind of almost easy twist in where this story is actually going. Again, it's an anthology, but it's one of those where it's just like this issue is one story, much like Terabytes, and always kind of like connecting to like the way humanity like faces different things. You should definitely check this one out. I think this is probably my favorite issue of High Strangeness so far, honestly. We've got Hectoplasm, issue 3 from Image Comics, and this is the Hunt for Bigfoot story from Hectoplasm. This is all about a man who is a detective of the what do we call it? Paranormal world? We'll say paranormal. And he has been called into an area because they believe there is a Bigfoot in the area, and he's come to do the research, but he's like, I don't work with those kinds of things. I only work with ghosts, because his whole thing is that he takes ectoplasm and uses it to both talk to ghosts, but also like make weapons that he can fight them with and things of that nature. And so in this issue, Hector is or in this series, Hector's been trying to figure out what's going on. Well, we finally get the big reveal in this issue and learn exactly what the professor of the university has been dealing with. And by professor of the university, I mean teacher at community college, which is a joke that runs in this issue, because the man has like a completely different introduction for himself than everything. And so it's so funny. It's honestly, it's a horror in the like paranormal world. Very Ghostbusters-esque. If you are a fan of Ghostbusters, you will really, really like this story. It's a little more like of an adult version of that, but Hector does have to solve all of his problems in this and figure out what's going on in the community before it is too late. And this is the last issue, so you get to see whether or not that happens. Harley Quinn and Elvira, issue 3 from Dynamite. This is the most hilarious thing that you didn't know that you always needed in your life. I have loved every single issue. Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner writing Harley Quinn is always funny, but then you add in Elvira and it just gets even better. And in this issue, so in this series, basically, Harley Quinn realizes that she never got to throw her epic Halloween party, and she's really sad about it. And even though it's nowhere near Halloween anymore, she decides she's going to do it. But the best way to throw an epic Halloween party is to have Elvira there. Well, lucky for her, Elvira just got fired from her job. So when Harley Quinn kidnaps Elvira, Elvira's like, if you pay me, I'll just stay here and work with you. So Harley, in issue 2, was trying to figure out how she could get the money to pay to afford to have Elvira appear at her party, but also stay living with them for as long as humanly possible, because who doesn't want to pay for Elvira to come live with them? And so they realized that one of the ways that they could do that was they get hired for some of those jobs that Harley and her friends always turn down because they're trying to be good people and not criminals anymore. But you know what? Harley's going to take those bad jobs because she needs more money to have Elvira help her. And so they go out on this adventure, and it goes really wrong, and the only person who can help them, lucky for her, I guess, is that Power Girl comes along and is trying to help them figure out how to solve the problem that they need before these people who are now chasing after Harley and Elvira can capture them. Basically, all of the best boob jokes ensue because you've got Elvira and Harley and Power Girl all in the same place. And it is hilarious, and it's so great. Everything on here is funny. Jimmy Palmiotti is nailing the voice of Elvira and Harley. I mean, Jimmy and Amanda know the voice of Harley better than probably anybody in the world. But seeing them put Elvira in there is absolutely funny, especially because Amanda Conner did compare it to working with Looney Tunes when they were talking about what it would be like to make this series. And so I absolutely love what they've come up with, and I cannot wait to see how this ends, because they just decided in this issue that the only safe place for them to go is Elvira has a friend who's a count who has a castle in the Carpathian Mountains, and maybe they can go stay with him, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the next issue. I'm going to take another drink of this wine really fast. Again, we are drinking Lazy Bones, and it's the California Cabernet Franc. Man, that's good wine. It's me one of those where I'm like, oh, there's no wine for dinner. We've got Dynamite Blood Red, issue 3 from Dynamite. This is an action-packed adventure that brings all of the female characters from the Dynamite universe together to fight through a zombie apocalypse. Except the zombie apocalypse isn't your traditional zombie apocalypse. Basically, in this world, only men are afflicted by the zombie virus, and they become zombies, and these ladies are like, well, we're just going to kill them all. We don't need men in the first place, so we'll just take them all out. Except the problem is that Vampirella has been keeping the love of her life hidden and, like, trying to keep him alive and not turning it, like, even though he's starting to turn to a zombie, and they find out about that, and they are trying to take her out. Also, Deja Thoris has just appeared, and they're trying to figure out who this space alien is what her deal is, and as they're all in this big fight about all of those things, a zombie outbreak kind of attacks Vampirella's apartment, and Miss Fury, Deja Thoris, and Vampirella need to get away, and the only person that seems to be able to help them in this moment is actually Red Sonja, a woman they've never met before who actually works in a Las Vegas show based off the Red Sonja universe. And they are trying to figure out now how can they get out of this Vegas area and into a safer place. And so they go on this massive adventure in this issue through some very dark and dangerous tunnels, and it's a lot of fun just to see. It's just one of those like action filled books that you're always like, oh, who's gonna show up on the next page, and it's always something fun. We've got The Author Immortal issue 3 from Image Comics. This is the story of a man who really wants to write amazing children's fantasy books, and he is not good at it, and we kind of see him relive that even more in this issue, where he kind of is stuck dealing with his own past trauma of not ever getting the deal that he wants and getting told constantly that he's not good enough to write his stories. But backing up, in issue 1, he was actually approached by a children's book author who had a lot of bad press because she made some terrible comments on the internet, and people decided they hated her even though her fantasy children's book series was their absolute favorite for generations. And now she needs somebody to come in and write a story that she can put her name on that will make her come back to popularity. And so she has hired him because he is the ultimate expert on a guy who created a fantasy world and then disappeared without ever finishing the story. And so now he has been hired by her and therefore sent to this person's mansion, and upon arriving and learning the history of this man, this author, and his space, he finds out that there was a secret room, and when entering the secret room, him and his daughter are sucked into this parallel world, which is essentially the world of the stories. And now he has to figure out a way to kind of fight his way through to save his daughter and himself from this. While everything is still happening in the outside world, they're still waiting on him to write this story. And so he's dealing with that trauma. His daughter is dealing with their trauma. They're trying to figure out like how to associate with their dad and everything again. It's been it's such a big world and a big adventure, and so many different layers kind of building into it, and he's really coming to terms with who he is and who he wants to be in that story. We've got Peter Cannon Thunderbolt issue 2 from Dynamite. In issue 1, we learned all about Peter Cannon, who was a guy who was raised in a cult and was kind of forced to learn different styles of fighting and martial arts and things of that nature. And in the process of doing so, he found himself alone when everybody else at the cult kind of did the Kool-Aid drinking, and he was left behind. And he's been sitting in this space training and learning more about himself and getting ready for an epic fight against the person who started the cult and left them all there behind. And now he's gone face to face with that guy. As it's been years later, he's an adult, and he is now trying to figure out how to take this guy down. Well, turns out for him, that guy is now like the richest, most powerful man in the world, and he's got to kind of prove himself in a different way, and he's come face to face with a friend who was also one of the only surviving members of this cult, or what everybody thought was the only surviving member of this cult, because even she didn't know he was still alive. And they are now working together and trying to figure out where they're going to be and what's going to happen, and how they can take down this person. It's a really cool story. I don't know Peter Cannon, so it was cool to see what that story looked like. I don't know how much of this is like connected to old Peter Cannon stories, but it's cool to get, if it's a modern take or a regular take, I don't know, but it's cool to see the story kind of coming up. We've got Die Loaded issue 2 from Image Comics. This is the newest, this is a whole new story in the Die universe. If you didn't read the previous Die from Kieran Gillen, I can actually say that you can still understand this entire story, because I don't remember reading more than the first like trade paperback of Die, and I totally know what's going on because Kieran does an incredible job of explaining it all in issue 1 and telling you where everybody is. He also does that again in this issue at the beginning, so you can kind of break down what happened. But if you don't know, basically Die is all about a group of people who, while playing a board game, end up sucked into this imaginary world that is essentially an RPG that they have to play their way through. And they ended up making it out, only to get sucked back in to finally make it out. And now years have passed. Things are finally starting to go back to normal, and one of the characters from the original Die universe dies before the book even starts. And at the funeral, new characters that we are just discovering, like, you know, their lives and where they are now, that are all connected to that original group, have found themselves also thrown inside this game suddenly. And they're like, one of them is the wife of one of the main characters from the Die Universe, and she's like, I know this only because he told me the stories of the things that he suffered through, and so I know that I have to trust different pieces of the puzzle, and I kind of have to put it together. But she is in there with the daughter of her sister-in-law, who is somebody else connected to the Die Universe, and she's like, I don't want anything to happen to this child. I guess they're the non-binary, so they're the child of this other sister-in-law, and they're trying to figure out also this like relationship they have, because this child has had a very bitter relationship towards everybody connected to the Die Universe. Meanwhile, they have landed in the first realm, which is the art realm, and they are trying to figure out how to make their way through that, which is something that the younger kid has more experience with, because they have been in art school, and they have found that they absolutely hate art school, and they feel like this is their personal hell that the Die Universe has built for them. And so the two of them have to work together to figure out how to make it through, because if you die in the world, you die in real life, and they're trying to figure out how to make sure that they don't end up dead. We've got 30 Days of Night, Falling Sun, issue 2 from IDW. I am so excited about this, because I think that 30 Days of Night is such a crazy, cool concept. You know, the idea that, like, there's 30 days of night in Alaska, and so with no sun, what would happen with vampires coming to town? It would be bad. It would be really bad. If you didn't read the book from Steve Niles or see the movie, you should. But now it's been years and years since that happened. I don't know if it says how many years. Decades, 2 decades. So it's been 20 years since that happened, and now we find a new character who has come to Alaska to live with his uncle, because the kid has gotten into some gang violence, and his mom is like, you need to move away. I'm gonna send you to live with your uncle in Alaska. You can't get in much trouble up there. And he's living up there in the same town that the vampires attacked previously, but nobody believes that it actually happened, because it's been 20 years, and so everybody's like, it's just a myth that never actually happened, except for some of the elders who are still in town, and even some of them are like, I don't know, maybe I don't really remember the thing anymore. Well, the young kid goes out one night looking to see, you know, something to do. He just needs to clear his head, because he can't sleep because of all the trouble he got in. And while he's walking around, he sees that a bar has been attacked, and he runs to his uncle and tells him, and the uncle is like, it's happening again. This is bad. The vampires have returned. They get everybody in town. They like bring them all to the school gym, and they're like, we cannot go out. The sheriff is figuring it out. They have returned. It is vampires. And of course, nobody believes them. And so everybody's like, we're not going to listen to you. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. Who cares? You don't know what you're talking about. Well, guess what? Vampires are back. And they have a vengeance. And I love the way the uncle says it. He's like, when, you know, the thing about a rematch is your opponent has had a chance to learn all of your moves and figure out what to do. And so now, like, maybe we had the heads up on the vampires last time, but they're going to be bigger and stronger. But that's not all, because the kid got in trouble for gang violence back in LA, and they have decided that they need to figure out where this kid has run to, and they need to stop him. And so now we are about to have gangs coming up into Alaska in the middle of the vampire, like, attack on the town. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't. But it's going to be good. Rodney Barnes is writing it, and Chris Sheehan is drawing it. So, like, if you need a reason to buy this book, there's 2 right there. But it's already so good that you need to be getting this book. It's so good. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. And I just love 30 Days of Night. I'm a sucker for that story. We've got Space Scouts, issue 2 from Dark Horse. And this is from the Flex House imprint, which is Matt Kent. This is, as you can see, a larger book, which is awesome, that magazine size, because it needs it for the craziness of David Rubin's arts, for sure. Look at this. This is, so basically, this is kind of like a Hunger Games-esque kind of story as well. A bunch of kids from different regions are brought into each battle to kind of figure out who's going to be the next Space Scout. And in issue 1, we saw them all figure out, like, hey, we could work together. And if we work together, we can get further and we can get there safely and we don't all have to die and we can bring, like, honor to our family. And now we're at the final battle. And what I really like about this is before the final obstacles that they have to chase, they actually, Matt Kent takes us back and introduces us with 2 pages for every single character so we can kind of learn, like, where they're from and who they are. In more detail. Well, then we get to the final battle, and what we learn is that there is something very, malaligned with what is happening here. Like, this battle, we're told one person will become a space scout, but in reality, they all get a contract for something. They all get sent out somewhere and are told that they can be these great heroes of the world. But what's the thing is that the world's not so great. And so where they're sent and what they're doing is not exactly what anybody thought it was going to be. And we're going to see, I think, in one more issue, I think we're going to get to see a little bit more of what this universe is actually doing and what it means to what it would look like to fight back and create a resistance towards this. And I really hope that's what we get to see. I don't know if that's what we're going to get to see. I hope it's what we get to see, because it would be really awesome to see these kids kind of rise up in the next issue. We've got Endeavor issue 2 from Distillery. Speaking of kids rising up, this is Lord of the Flies on a boat. Essentially, basically a group of people all book a trip on the Endeavor, which is actually the same ship that made its way across, like, the sea before. Like, this is like the 1700s Endeavor ship that is these kids are, like, able to take a trip with their families on, and so I think it's like 10 families book a trip on here. Well, something happens in the last issue. They took a woman on board and that they rescued. And when they bring her on board, suddenly all of the adults get extremely sick and die. And the kids wake up overnight and essentially find themselves alone on this ship. And, like, the oldest kid is 13. These are kids between the ages of, like, 6 and 13. And they're trying to figure out how to survive on the ship. And, of course, there's some that are like, we need to get rid of the adults. If we leave the adults on the ship, like, they're smelling, who knows if they're rotting and spreading the disease even further. Like, if we leave the adult, like, none of us are ever getting off this ship anyway, because if somebody does come to help us and they find out that everybody died from disease, it's not like they're going to let us off. Like, one of the kids is like, has anybody seen a zombie movie? You don't get to live if you're connected to the disease. And then they're trying to figure out, what do they do with the woman who came onto the ship? They're like, do we kill her? Do we throw her overboard? Do we put her in the brig? Like, what are we supposed to do? We're 13, like, and under. Like, we don't really know what's happening. And so these kids are kind of losing it and yet trying to hold it together all at the same time. And there's a lot of really crazy dark stuff. Stephanie Phillips is writing an awesome story. Issue 1 is Pick of the Week. This is a week where I wanted to put every book in the Picks of the Week, and this is yet another one of those that I was like, I could just make this Pick of the Week. I think I've passed like 8 of those already this week. But it's so good, and I cannot wait to see, most Distillery books are like 3 issues, so I can't wait to see if Stephanie wraps this up in the next issue or if it goes to 4, because there's so much that could come out of this, and I cannot wait to see what exactly does. All right, so we got some number 1s. We're going to kick it off with Thundercats Holiday Special. This is all about the Thundercats living on the third Earth that they've been on. If you've been following the Dynamite series, the Thundercats have, Thundara, their home planet, has been destroyed, and they've moved on to third Earth, and they've gone through a lot of troubles. And in this issue, Lion-O and Pantara are, like, going out to try to figure out something mysterious that's happening, trying to find some, scouting for a meteor that fell, that they're like, maybe this has some of our Thundercats energy that we need. And in the process, they meet a man who is known as Snowman, because he is from this, like, snow realm, and he has a snow cat named Snow Meow, who's awesome. And in the process of that, they get captured by this woman who is essentially like the Collector in the Marvel Universe, and so she's always trying to collect the last of a different species. And she is like, yes, the last snowman, and he comes with a cat, and she's like, oh, and Thundercats, well, I need to collect them, but I only need one, so I'm going to have to kill one of you. And she's like, one of the other things I like to collect is different viruses from different places that have been so long eradicated elsewhere that there are no cures for them. And she's like, so I'm going to inject you with one. and see who survives. And there's obviously like big battles, things that go down, and lots of wonderful moments of what, you know, coming together in the wake of these kinds of things. But just a great little one shot if you aren't reading the Thundercat story and you want to pick up something to have a little nostalgia in your holiday. That's a great one to do that. We've got Teether issue 1 from Antarctic Press. What a crazy book this is. This is all about a family who, you know, they're just on like one of those little drives. The young girl hasn't ever learned how to drive. She's like 14, and the dad's like, well, we're on a country road. Why don't I let you drive? And in the process of it, something jumps out in the road that looks like a deer, and she swerves to misses it, and she crashes into a tree. And they decide that they need to go and get help. And the dad's like, well, since it's your accident, you got to come with me to find a phone and some help. And then they leave the other family members behind to wait for them with the car for the tow truck to arrive. And that's where things get crazy. The dad and daughter find a house that definitely says not to come in, and in it is a little girl who is very scared of her parents and says that they've been, you know, eating some things and getting some vicious, crazy creepiness, and she's like, I need your help. And the parents return while they're there, and the family has to kind of deal with it. And just to give you a little hint of the things we're dealing with, there is something evil in these woods for sure, and I'm not going to tell you anything more because the second half of the book is all spoilers for the horror that lies within, and so you're going to have to pick it up. It's wild, and it's a 4-part series, so it's going to keep going. We've got Aggie. This is a one-shot from AWA, and it's part of their Protopia series that they've been doing, which is basically a sci-fi anthology that explores the possible futures that could come to pass when we make the right choices and yet imperfect societies. And in this one, Mark Russell is writing this as well. And there is, I should have just put all 3 Mark Russell books in my picks of the week and just called it Mark Russell Week. But anyway, this is all about a couple that has developed a thing called Aggie, which is the Aggregated Human Experience Database. And basically, it got the husband in the group, the husband in the couple sold it with investors and was the guy in charge of all the business. So he made the business go completely commercialized. And instead of it being something that they could use to better humanity, it just kind of became a way where you could essentially pay to access any of the memories in your mind that you wanted to at any point in time. But then to commercialize it even more, you could pay, like, there's like an ad at one point for $600, and you get to see a celebrity's birthday party and experience what it was like when she turned 12 and how great it was. Well, now they've reached the point where, because so many people are in the world and so many people are hooked up to this and using it constantly, that the machine itself can no longer handle the weight of it. And so they have this thing where essentially it's going to put everybody into a coma because it's going to overwhelm on memories, and it's just going to like shut down everybody's brains at the same time. And so the husband has to go back to his now ex-wife and talk to her about it, and she has no idea what's going on because she's one of the only people who didn't put the implant in, because as the person who designed it, she didn't feel like that was the thing she needed to do. And she's been kind of living off the grid all this time, and so she's like, well, the only way I can save it, your investors aren't going to like it, but I'm basically going to have to take Aggie and make her sentient. And he's like, okay, fine, do it. Well, because of that, Aggie starts to think for herself and starts to decide what memories and minds, like things that people should have. And it becomes where Aggie starts to fill everybody's brains with the worst of humanity. And you start experiencing all the bad things people around the world have done over time. And it's like, well, I want you to see the bad things that you did. Like, I want you to understand like how bad people are and how bad other people have it, so that maybe you'll be better people. Like, I don't think humans are bad. I just think humans don't understand how bad they've made the world. And so Aggie starts actually forcing people to live this new experience. And he ends up going to jail for giving her sentience. And then there's this whole idea that like, you know, Aggie like kind of starts pushing people to actually have like these different experiences in new ways, and the way people actually interact with it. And it is a one shot, so I'm not going to tell you where it ends and how that goes with how people actually respond to that, because I think that the story is just, it's so Mark Russell and therefore beautiful in the way that he has this conversation. But it's definitely worth a read for sure this week. We've got Barbaric, The Long Death, issue 1 from Vault. The Barbaric series is a long-running series that does either one-shots or 3-part stories to kind of give us a continuation each year of where the story is at. And this takes us back to our original heroes with Owen the Barbarian and Soren, who we haven't seen in a hot minute. And Owen has a talking axe. Owen is cursed. Basically, if somebody actually asks for help, he has to help them. He cannot kill for his own reasons. He can't barbarian anymore. Essentially, he is cursed to only do the right thing, and has this immortality through it. Soren is a witch who feels like she is cursed because of the fact that everybody in her town has cast her out, and there is some kind of curse that is tying her to Owen and the axe. And in this issue, they are trying to figure out, find the missing pieces of Owen's memory that might help him get away from his curse. And so they've brought a troll along who is going to help them find that. But unfortunately for Soren, those memories seem to be buried in her home place. And so they actually have to go to her hometown, a town that has decided that they follow the one true God and they no longer believe in witches at all. And so they don't care about Soren or the fact that she's there, except as she gets near the elders, they all start panicking. They want to get her out of the town. They don't believe she can help them from the evils that have fallen upon them and are ready to attack her. Lots of big things that lead us possibly to some answers, or maybe just some more problems as the story starts to unfold. We've got Wrestle Heist #1 from Image Comics. I got to hear Kyle Starks talk all about this last week, so I have been really excited for this book. And if you follow our social media, you saw Pizza with Pizzo. Anthony was really excited for this book, said it was one of Kyle's funniest books ever, and he definitely is correct on that. This is so hilarious. This is all about a guy who's kind of the heel of the wrestling world. He's the one that takes the fall every time to make everybody look great. Sterling Steele is his name, and he's finally found a way to just find a wrestling organization that's actually going to let him go for the trophy, get the belt, do all the things. And so he's like, hey, I'm leaving. This is my last fight. I'm so happy that I've, have had this experience with y'all. Well, his company does not like that, and they are like, we're not going to let you walk away. Literally, they actually physically harm him so he cannot walk away. And when he wakes up from the hospital, he finds out he can never wrestle again, and he kind of has to figure out this new path in life. And while he's trying to figure that out, he comes across a friend at a wrestling convention that is somebody he used to work with, who's a retired wrestler, and he's like, hey, I can get you on the con circuit. And he's like, I've got a better idea. What if we come up with a different plan, a different way to survive? What if we rob the Wrestling Foundation? What if we rob Fights Giving? And so it is going to be it's going to be literally what it says: wrestling and a heist. You're going to get both of those things. It's going to be a crazy wild adventure. This book is hilarious. It's funny. And honestly, some of the best stuff is totally completely true. Just like Kyle just going crazy in the back matter, coming up with articles about the wrestlers, talking about the top members of the Wrestling Foundation, just all the different things, making fake ads that are absolutely hilarious. He just made a magazine, a wrestling magazine in the back part of the book, which is so cool and so funny. If you you get stuff like wrestling ring overstock. Own a real life wrestling ring for free. We messed up bad. Our owner, Meet Stevens, ordered too many rings, and we don't have the space for them. We gotta move these wrestling rings fast. Get a for real life wrestling ring and teach yourself to be a professional wrestler. Or promote unsanctioned neighborhood fight clubs. But I don't even like wrestling. Well, what would I do with a real life wrestling ring? Dude, why are you reading a wrestling mag then? So all kinds of funny stuff. And then at the very back, you actually get to see a bunch of other comic creators, retailers, and people in the industry talk about who their favorite wrestlers are. There's so much in this book already. It's definitely going to be a wild ride. It's gonna be violent. It's gonna be funny. It's gonna be exactly what you expect Kyle Starks to do in a book called Wrestle Heist, and you're gonna love every second of it. All right, we've got New Space Age #1 from Mad Cave. This is like the surprise book of the week for me. Like, I was like, I wonder what this book's gonna be. It was not any of the things that I would have guessed. So good. It takes place in, I believe it's actually in the future. What year it is, I don't remember. 2055. And this guy is talking about how him and his brother always wanted to go out in the stars and explore space, and basically they had this really abusive childhood, and they were like, this isn't for us, we know we're meant to have more than this. And one day when they're kids, aliens come and they abduct the younger brother through a crop circle, and this guy has been like adamant that his brother was abducted by aliens, and so he went on to become an astronaut, and as he's off in space all the time, he's using the time and the funds to kind of look for his brother and use it as a way to explore that. Well, he ends up causing the International Space Station to be destroyed, and so therefore they put the entire space program for the government is just shut down, and they're like, it's all going to be private. You have killed space exploration for everybody. And he's like, oh man, that sucks. You were going to do it anyway. It's not my fault. And then we get to see him talk to his one childhood friend that he still associates with, who has become a magician performing around the world. And she tells him, she's like, hey, like, I got really into magic for a while, like actual magic, and I learned that a lot of these tricks, like, I can do with actual witchcraft. And she talks about the dark magic and all the stuff she was exploring, and he ends up like, okay, like, you know, there's got to be something there. Maybe you should look into it. And the reason why is because the symbols that she uses for her witchcraft look exactly like the ones in the crop circle. And so he starts trying to piece things together and figure out like where things are going, and kind of comes up with his own philosophy on like what space could be and where it could be going. Actually, like, really big adventure, really cool characters, great character development, so much. I actually thought at one point, like, this was almost like, it felt like a double-sized issue, even though it's not, because there's so much in this story that I was like, there's no way that we're still on issue 1. Like, this is so big that I can't believe how much they put into the story and how great they developed it out so far. This is going to be a really cool story, and I can't wait to see where it goes. It was definitely, like, I was like, that's another one of those, like I said, there was like 8 or 9 books I wanted to put in Picks of the Week on top of the Picks of the Week, and that's definitely one of them where I was like, oh, this could be one. Oh man, it's so good. So there's a lot there. All right, we are going to jump into our Picks of the Week. There is 3 of them, not 9 of them, so as much as I want. So just gonna take a drink of our wine to remind you what we're drinking really fast, and then we'll go into that. So we are drinking Lazy Bones, which is the California Cab Franc, and it's delicious.
Paso Robles.
Paso Robles.
Out of Napa.
Right, Matt doesn't like Napa wine, so if you have the world's greatest Napa wine that you think we should try, you should give it to us, because you could prove us wrong. But yeah. All right, Picks of the Week. We've got 3. First up, back again, we've got Liquidator issue 2 from Mad Cave. I was like so surprised by what this book did for issue 2 after what it did for issue 1. So the overall premise for this series is that there is an organization of people who go traveling through time to kind of stop time crimes, different things that are happening. Like, one of the ones we see in this is a woman who is supposed to be a time cop becomes an influencer, and she's like going back in time and just taking pictures of herself in different places. And they kind of find people who are down on their luck that don't really have a reason to live, and are like, hey, we'll give you one and you can travel through time. Issue 1 had us following this woman who was kind of getting really confused about what time period she was from and what she was living in. And it took us back in time to kind of like it felt like we were going to a Jack the Ripper kind of situation, but in New York. And we met a guy, and he was supposed to be like the person she was, you know, we needed to stay away from, or so it seemed. This issue follows that guy, and so it's almost like you gave us an entire origin story for who you painted out to be the villain, who may still very well be that villain, in issue 2, which was really cool, because it is the story of a man who It's also working as a liquidator after he kind of lost everything. He was on track to be a big rock star in the 60s, and he had the best girlfriend, and then she left him for another man from another band, and she also, I don't want to show you that. He also lost his like big music contract and everything. And he kind of just felt like he didn't have anything. And so he became a liquidator, and he got really, really good at it. And he kind of lost himself in it. And then he kind of starts to shift who he is and his focus. And like I said, is this the origin story of our villain? Is it going to be the origin story of the true hero of the story? Is this character just like some flawed person in the mix of all the other characters? I don't know, but they gave us the fact that they shifted to him after painting him out to be the villain in the first issue, and then gave us this complete arc of this character and like what his motivations are and everything. It was just such a complete shift in the tone and style of the story and what our narrative focus was, that I'm like, well, I don't know what you're going to do in issue 3. And that was kind of why, for me, I was like, this just escalated this story and elevated it even to a whole new world of narrative storytelling that we're using with this book. If you did not pick up issue 1 and issue 2, you should definitely get it, because the premise of the time travel kind of doesn't even really, like, if you're like, I'm not really a time travel person, that part almost doesn't even matter, except for the fact that it is doing something to their brains that's making them become these messed up people that are putting themselves in these situations. But again, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, and what is actually going to happen in issue 3? No idea. And how is Peter Milligan to tell the story in 5 issues? No idea. We're going to find out. But it's going to be good if it keeps going. Next up, we have the end of Ancestral Recall. This is issue 5 from Ahoy Comics. What a beautiful ending to this story this was. Oh my gosh. If you didn't read this book, this is all about a man who is an artist who is kind of starting to show those signs of memory loss and kind of losing who he is, and as he gets older in age, and his wife, who's his art agent but is also kind of just the person that keeps him together on a regular basis, she has gone missing. Somebody has kidnapped her. We learn they essentially take her to the future, where they're doing all of this crazy stuff, and he's trying to save her, and he has the neighbor teenage girl as the only person he can rely on to help him. And as they're going through this, he is able to have these experiences where he essentially learns different skills and knowledge that he needs to fight this battle through actual like encounters with people throughout Black history that teach him about the thing he needs to know. And so it's really cool because we get to learn a lot of prominent figures in Black history that aren't talked about in history in the way that they should be. And so it's really cool to see that. And we get this incredibly beautiful speech from him about the power of Black history and about the power of being a Black man or a Black person in the world, and how it is this eternal power that they will always have. And it's just this absolutely gorgeous story, and it sets up this universe that could continue to happen and could continue to exist. But there was this one line, and I think it's towards the end, where they're like, yeah, it's like they've been going through an infinite number of doors, and no matter if it was cosmic or otherwise, they hoped each would lead them to the same destination, each other, because at the end of the day, that's what doors really are, gateways. And we can either close them off to one another, to ourselves, and to our histories, or we can open them to the possibilities of community, understanding, and love. And what a great message, and what a great story this has, and like the power of love and history and community and working together, and just realizing that we all matter and that our stories all play in together, and that history is so important. And what a great way to tell that story through comics. So good. If you didn't pick this up, grab all 5 issues, or wait for the trade, but you definitely need to read this. And what another great winner from Ahoy. And then lastly, we've got No Place issue 2 from Ignition Press. This is going to be their fantastic fantasy that they're going to have for us. And this is obviously going to be one of those books that I love, because it has a nice connection to The Wizard of Oz, which I am always a sucker for. This is about a young girl from Chicago who is a teenage girl, and she finds herself in an imaginary world, a fantasy world that nobody believes exists. And when she comes back later from that, after saving that world, everybody's just like, no, you were just kidnapped. Imaginary worlds aren't real. You're haha. Like, and nobody really trusts her and believes her. And she is recruited by a mysterious secret society that is basically supposed to help save those imaginary worlds, but also keep that stuff from bleeding into the real world. And right now we are seeing some big issues coming into play in Chicago, things that are attacking the rivers and the sewers and the underground, and people who are in danger. And so the leader of the organization, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, is actually trying to recruit this young girl, Mariposa, to come in and help them actually deal with these monsters. And so this is her first chance to go on a mission of her own. And Dorothy is teaching her that the rules of the game are to know that, like, essentially every fantasy world has monkeys, simians of some kind, and also an evil witch. Maybe they look a little different, but there's always those two things. And so that's what you're looking for in the world. And it's so cool to see how they piece that together through all the different fantasy worlds, where you're like, huh, I never even thought about that. And then, yeah, how to also see them attacking our world in this. It's such a good story. I love the characterization of the people that they're bringing in. I want to see more of the fantasy world that Mariposa saved. But there's also, because it does take place in Chicago, there's also some really just great Chicago jokes in there. And so if you're looking for a fun fantasy story, if you're a fan of Never Wars, things like that, No Place is another one that you want to check out for sure. And great for people who enjoyed the Wicked movie and who like those alternative stories to fantasy worlds. All right. That's all I got for you this week with new books. I'm going to run through all the other stuff that was in stock from everybody else really fast and run it down for you. We had Sonya Reborn, issue 4 from Dynamite. Marvel Rivals Ignite. This is a one-shot with that Peach Momoko story. Blade Runner Black Lotus, issue 3 from Titan. Black Panther is back in Intergalactic. This is issue 1. Black Cat, issue 5 hit from G. Willow Wilson. We have some Asia Revelation stories and Omega Kids 3, Rogue Storm 3, X-Men Book Revelation 3, and Last Wolverine issue 3. Wonder Woman hit issue 28. We've got Titans issue 30. This is part of your DC KO. Immortal Thor issue 5. We've got another round of Stitch variants, by the way, for those collectors. Strange Tales issue 3, leading towards our new Sorcerer Supreme. Superman Unlimited number 8. Superman Kryptonite Spectrum number 5. Amazing Spider-Man Torn issue 3, King Spawn issue 51, Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu issue 15, Rogue Sun issue 31. She-Hulk is back in Planet She-Hulk. We've got issue 2 this week, as well as Daredevil Punisher issue 2, 2 hot books last month back for you. Conan the Barbarian issue 27. Speaking of hot books from last month, Alien vs. Captain America issue 2 came out this week. Catwoman has hit issue 82. I'm so happy. I love saying that every time. Batman Superman World's Finest issue 45. Battle World issue 4, and we are doing nullified variants right now. So if you are a fan of Null and ready to see what's going to happen soon with Null, you got to get all of those. Avengers issue 33 and Absolute Flash issue 10. Lots of great books. It was such a big week. And then we've got a bunch of trade paperbacks and graphic novels. We've got volume 4 of G.I. Joe Real American Hero. This is issues 316 to 320. And this is the Comic Shop Store exclusive cover. We've got Absolute Green Lantern, got volume 1 trade. This is going to be issues 1 through 6 of Absolute Green Lantern. If you didn't catch it, now's your chance to do that. The Moon is Following Us. This is volume 2, where Daniel Warren Johnson is going to rip your heart out and make you cry, but in the most beautiful way possible. It's such a good story, but definitely take your tissues. We've got Mid-State. This is a volume 1 from Mad Cave. This is Mid-State issues 1 through 5, which was released as a Comixology original and is a crazy, scary story, real world psychic abilities, dangerous moments. If you didn't get to read it digitally, now's your chance to read it physically. They Choose Violence. This is the whole story that came out earlier this year, all about 3 girls looking for revenge on people who were attacking people of color and how they could get their revenge and kind of even the score. Great story. Red Before Black is finally in trade. This is issues 1 through 6. There was a lot of delays on this book because of everything that happened with the diamond closing and boom switching places. So if you got lost in the fray of that and didn't get to read all of it, or have been waiting for it to be collected, it finally is, and so you can get that book. And then Spider-Man Black Suit and Blood. This was an anthology of stories from one of those black, white, and blood kind of things, but this is Spider-Man celebrating the 40th anniversary of his black costume in one of those anthology kind of stories. And then our last one, Draw Stronger. This is self-care for cartoonists and visual artists. Really great way to manage pain, how to like keep yourself, like your actual, like your drawing hands like safe, learning what symptoms you should be looking for, exercises to keep your posture and reduce fatigue, ways to actually help with physical and mental health for artists, because that is something that a lot of us don't get to think about because artists don't have healthcare. So that's a great book to help you out with that. Lots of great books coming out this week. Like I said, remember Christmas Eve, we will be open all day. We'll actually be having a potluck from 6 to 9. So if you're in the area and you need somewhere to go, we will be here open and celebrating. Again, you can come all day long. We'll be open 11 to 9 that day, so you can come pick up your books. It is a new comic book day on Christmas Eve. We will be closed on Christmas Day. We will reopen on Friday, so we will see you all then, and we will you know, be excited to talk about comics with you and just hang out and celebrate the holidays. So come see us, and until we see you again, happy holidays, and of course, happy reading, everyone.